What is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I'm bringing you guys a brand new video today, and today we're going to talk about team building and how to build a team in competitive Pokemon for the VGC format, which has now changed to Series 3, which has some pretty big shakeups, man. Venusaur, Incineroar, and a handful of other Pokemon have really risen in the metagame, but I think it's still pretty diverse, still pretty fun to do, and there's definitely a lot of challenges in building new teams right now. So I'm going to give you guys kind of a very high-level analysis of how I build a team. And I have a lot of experience team building. I've been doing competitive Pokemon for over 10 years now. But the real kind of secret sauce to my team building has come from Draft League Pokemon, where I battle against an opponent and I know what 10 Pokemon or 12 Pokemon they have, and they know what 10 or 12 Pokemon I have, and I'm simply building my team to counter their team. And when it translates into VGC, the official Pokemon format, I found that a lot of those skills that I've learned over the years of doing Draft League battling really translate relatively well to VGC, because, you know, I'm kind of simply, instead of countering, you know, these particular Pokemon on my opponent's team, I'm countering a wider metagame and making sure that I can handle various threats in the metagame. So I'm going to use a couple different examples in this video. I want to stress that I don't think that there's anything such thing as a perfect team. I think the only way that you're going to ultimately be able to truly build a team that you feel confident in is by testing that team and really going through kind of the trials and tribulations of learning the ups and downs of the team. But I think that this video can give you kind of a baseline and at least where to start and how I kind of approach my team building process in the VGC kind of format right now, which is done pretty well so far. So we're gonna have some fun with that. Be sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe if you guys are new, and if you want this to turn into like a series where I cover more than just kind of this video, let me know, because I know this is probably the most highly requested video on the channel, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't have a script or anything. I'm just gonna kind of talk and give you guys my thoughts. That's typically how I go about things. So first thing is a couple resources. I'll have all this in the description below. This is Peakalytics, by the way. This pulls showdown data, Pokemon showdown data from, I believe, a top percentage of ELO. You have to kind of keep in mind that the data can be a little bit skewed at times, and the reason why I say that is because it can be heavily influenced by just a handful of people, especially when it comes to the lesser used Pokemon. And right now the series just started, so the data isn't as robust as it would likely be, so there's a little bit of things that need to kind of be worked out. But very simply put, this website's very simple to use. You have VGC 2020 over here, nice little drop down. You can see all the Pokemon and kind of their usage, Togekiss and Incineroar being at the top. You can click on a Pokemon, it'll show you what its stats are, the most common moves, and the percentage of those moves, the teammates that that Pokemon is often paired with, the standard common EV spreads, the different abilities that you often see, and then the held items that are most common. This should be your go-to resource for pretty much everything VGC, in my opinion, or at least the good starting point. Like, you know, you can look at various Pokemon and understand what they pair well with, or what other people are using to pair those Pokemon together to ultimately come out with really good things. So I bet you if I click on Venusaur right now, and I swear I haven't done this, you're gonna see things like Sableye and Charizard, maybe even some Ninetales, some Torkoal, maybe some Trick Room setters to go with that. You'll probably see redirection like Togekiss, and then you might see some bulky waters thrown in there like Lapras. Let's click on Venusaur and see what we got. So we've got Togekiss, Incineroar, Rotom Wash, Excadrill, Dragapult, Charizard, Snorlax, Torkoal, Jellicent, Lapras. So no Sableye, which I'm actually surprised about. That might be a little bit more secret tech right now, but you know, Sableye, I think you're gonna see rise in usage with those Pokemon. But again, you have to keep in mind, if you look at it like a really lesser used Pokemon though, you got to keep in mind that the data could be a little bit skewed, because it could be very much so influenced by like just a handful of people. So again, take that with a grain of salt. So if I click Hawlucha, I'm sure Sylveon is going to come up and Indeedee is going to come up. Let's take a look. Indeedee, Incineroar, Rotom, Rhyperior, Dusclops, Duraludon, Inteleon, Dragapult, Sandaconda, Torkoal. So actually this is crazy, because if we were to have looked at this 2 weeks ago, I actually think Sylveon would have been one of the top 3 Pokemon. But again, data's not super robust right now, so just keep that in mind. I just really want to give you guys the kind of the end, you know, the picture here that you know, this is a great website, a great resource, but realize that the data is only so limited right now, and as the season progresses, we'll have more data. Next thing I want to show you guys is Pokemon Showdown. This is Pokemon Showdown here. If you're not familiar with it, it's a great battle simulator where you can go online. You can go onto the VGC ladder right here. I encourage you to go there, make an account, and then you can just click battle. You can pick a team, you can battle with it, and face off against your opponents and see what happens. This is how I test all my teams, and unfortunately, I wish all my teams were here, but I had to clear my browser cookies like a few weeks ago, and because I had some issues with YouTube not working right. I don't know why. And I had to clear my cookies, so I lost all my teams. So I wish I had like a full kind of breakdown of all the teams that I've been using. But if you look at my Colossal team that I had been using at this most recent event, you can see a ton of variations just from this, right? At one point, the team had Indeedee and Jellicent, and then it had Trevenant on it at one point, which is kind of funny. And it had Dusclops, and this actually is the variation of the team that I ended up bringing, but I'm sure it's very different, right? So let's take a look if there's differences. So this EV spread is different. The Conkeldurr didn't have Poison Jab. The Rotom spread is all over the place, and actually this is pretty close to one that I ended up bringing, but I ended up kind of going through a bunch of different variations. I had, you know, Dragapult on the team and Rotom Wash. I was testing this team right here for a little bit, you know, and this probably is the rise of, yeah, again, a lot of my teams got wiped out, but the rise of Goodra here is as one of my ways to kind of counter the Sun. But you've got some other stuff here too, like Raichu, Gyarados, and things like that. I was kind of toying around with some ideas with Vikavolt here. Got some other fun ideas. This team I was talking about with Sableye, having Sunny Day, kind of pairing with Venusaur, right? So a lot of different ideas, a lot of different teams. We're going to kind of dive into that. Pokemon Showdown Damage Calculator. This is the Jake White GitHub VGC Damage Calculator. Really, really good reference, right? Like, you could pop in here and say, okay, I've got a Charizard. It's the Gigantamax Charizard. And I'm going to go for a Max Heat Wave in Sun against a Rotom Wash. That's just standard bulk. And I'm actually going to do with Max Heat Wave. Oh, we got to be Solar Power, though. Solar Power, we're going to throw a Life Orb on there. And boom, we are actually doing 70 to 82% to a Rotom in Sun, and that's a specially defensive Rotom. That's a specially defensive Rotom. That's not even an offensive Rotom. That's a defensive Rotom. Like, if it's offensive, bro, you actually one-shot it. That's crazy. And it's great to have damage calculations to get some feel for what you're going to be doing and what the different calculations are. One of the big things you want to be looking at primarily, though, is your speed calculations. Always do that. Always make sure you look at your speed. And the last thing here is VGC Stats. Another website very similar to Pikalytics that I just use Pikalytics a little bit more, but VGC Stats gives you a lot of that stuff too. And this actually gives you like teams and articles and stuff like that from various events, so you can kind of see a good understanding of the metagame breakdown. I don't necessarily think this is all the data. I don't think this is fully updated. So I think things like Incineroar are not going to be accurately represented right now because they've only been out for just a little bit of time. But you can see data based on different tournaments and things like that. So those are all your resources right there. Those are all the resources. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is how to build a team and like what you want to build around. And I think for me, you go piece by piece, right? Like, you want to look at piece by piece, but I always try to look at what my main objective of the team is going to be and what my main four of the team is going to be. Because generally, I think it's really good to just look at the team and say, okay, like, what two pieces work together first and foremost, right? Because double battles is you have two Pokemon in the field at once. So you really want to get two pieces that work together, four pieces that work together, and then, in my opinion, two pieces that can kind of interchange out to counter various things that maybe affect the core four. So let's take a look at one of the teams that I built already that I can give you guys a good example of. So let's take a look at I guess this is the team that I've been kind of messing with this morning, and I'll give you guys kind of a rundown of this. And I don't necessarily think this is very good, but we'll talk about it. So I wanted to build a team around Colossal. Its Gigantamax form is out, so my starting point was Colossal. I knew, okay, I want Colossal on it, and I'll talk about the moves and the EVs. I don't think you should stress about the EVs at the beginning of a team building process. I really don't. I think a lot of people are like so stressed about it. If you don't know what EV spread you want, just go on here and just pull it up. Just go to Colossal and see what people are running. A lot of people run like max speed or whatever. I don't do that. My Colossals are all bulky, so that's just my opinion. And if you don't know what to do, like, look at what other people are running with it, right? Again, I think right now is a little tough because the data is a little skewed, but primarily Dragapult's a good combination with it. And again, a lot of people running Venusaur, Blastoise, kind of crazy stuff. Berserker, again, the data can be really skewed because it's not a huge sample size right now. But I've got my Colossus. I know I want to run him with Weakness Policy, and he's going to have Ancient Power, Solar Beam for those grass types, Heat Wave, and Protect, right? Easy peasy. Worry about the EV spread later. Next piece, I want to run Surf next to Colossal, because if I activate my Colossal Steam Engine, I can boost its speed, and I can then hit really, really hard. So I want to have a fast mode with this team. So I'm actually going to run a support Dragapult. This Dragapult here, I'm going to run Focus Sash, so that way I don't get blown back by other Dragapults or things that somehow are faster than me. And I've got, you know, max speed, max HP with Reflect, Light Screen, Surf, and Ally Switch. This could easily be helping hand, though. I've been testing a lot of different things. But the objective here is I have these two pieces, right? Colossal, Dragapult, they work together. I know they work together because they have the perfect dimension of me being able to Surf, activate Colossal Steam Engine, activate its Weakness Policy, and then do a lot of damage, right? The next thing I want to do is I personally love running Colossal under Trick Room, so I want to have a Bronzong that allows me to do just that. I need a Pokemon that can set Trick Room and that can bulldoze or hit Colossal super effectively under Trick Room to allow me to get that weakness policy activated, right? Those are the 3 pieces that I'm trying to work with here. So in this case, I have Bronzong. I've got the Colbur Berry to reduce the power of dark type moves. I've got Body Press, Bulldoze, Ally Switch, and Trick Room. And I know that, you know, Bronzong can actually be a pretty good response to Sand when I have Trick Room up. I've got the EV spread, don't worry about that. But again, Body Press, good physical attack. We've got the Bulldoze here, which activates Colossal's weakness policy. I've got the Trick Room there to help myself out. And then Ally Switch, because I actually feel like in this case, as much as I hate Ally Switch, I actually think in this case it's very viable paired with Colossal because of the weaknesses and the Levitate and things like that. Now from there, I said to myself, okay, I need to figure out a Pokemon that can deal with all this sun right now, right? We got Venusaur, we've got Charizard everywhere, we've got Blastoise popping up with Water Spout. I know that Colossal really struggles against bulky waters like Milotic, Rotom Wash. It struggles against Gastrodon. So I'm thinking, what Pokemon can cover all of those different things or give me at least some options there that can function to slow down what I'm considering to be the metagame, right? Colossal's so good against Togekiss, Arcanine, and Incineroar. It destroys those Pokemon, but it really struggles against the other Pokemon I mentioned, Milotic and things like that. So I'm like, you know what? Let's try Goodra. I'm going to test out Goodra. I don't know if I'm going to keep Goodra. I'm going to test it, though, because Goodra completely shuts down those Sun Pokemon. It's got the Sap Sipper, so Venusaur can't hit it with Sleep Powder. I know those Earth Powers and Leaf Storm, things like that, are going to do very minimal damage, and I can deal a lot of damage back with my own Flamethrower. I've got the Assault Vest, trying to speed creep Togekiss and things like that, but again, you can look up some standard EV spreads while you're starting. I don't optimize my EV spread until the team is like finalized, to be honest. Like I don't really worry about that. I mean, speed and things like that are a little bit more important, but you got to really find the pieces, right? Find the pieces first and tweak those before you start going crazy about your EV spreads, because I feel like you could go, you don't want to spend, what I'm trying to say is you don't want to spend all this time like dissecting every little piece when the team ends up getting changed down the road, and you waste all this time like dissecting one little piece when you might even just take that whole piece out in the first place. So figure out what 6 you're going to be running first and then optimize, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Or at least the core 4 first, right? Then I've got Rotom on here. This is just a standard Rotom spread. I like the max HP, max speed, nasty plot stats. I ran the Rotom Mow earlier, but I'm running the Wash one, and that's basically to help me against the Lapras. Lapras oftentimes, if it does not Gigantamax, it's not really a threat. So I'm like, you know what? You have to Gigantamax to beat my team, basically. So I'm going to run the Rotom Wash, because if it Gigantamaxes, then it doesn't really hit me very hard, and I can fire off nasty plots and then go for the Thunderbolts. So that was my logic there. This is also a decent chance to slow down Charizard, which is good. It deals with Incineroar relatively well. It's got Levitate, so it can dodge those ground type moves aimed at Colossal. It resists Colossal's main weakness, which is water typing, of course. So it's got a lot of pieces that kind of fit in very nicely. It pairs nicely with Goodra, obviously, as Goodra has that grass immunity. So again, you can kind of see what my thought process is here, right? And this is kind of the glue piece. And then, last but not least, I ran Conkeldurr, but I'm trying out Surfetch. And you can see I just threw this on team. I don't care about the EVs. I'm just going max attack, max HP. There is most certainly a more optimal way to run this, right? Maybe more bulk or a little less attack or whatever. But I'm running the Leak here, which is going to give me some double crit ratio, close combat, Leaf Blade, 100% crit, knockoff, and protect. So maybe detect probably is better. And maybe instead of knockoff, you run Night Slash, or maybe you try to fit Brave Bird on there, or whatever. So again, you figure out what the weaknesses are, okay? If I say, okay, you know what, I really have a hard time dealing with, I don't know, let me get a good example here. I have a hard time dealing with psychic types, right? Maybe I have a really hard time dealing with psychic types. Maybe I reconsider that. I go with first impression or something, right? To hit some of those psychic types that maybe don't have the weakness to dark or whatever, right? So this is just a random sample team that I threw together. But let's actually build a new team here. Let's kind of look at a new team and think about this. And we actually had this conversation on stream. I'm going to throw something together, right? Just to give you guys an example. So let's say I want to build a team around Orbeetle. Orbeetle just got its new Gigantamax form, and this is going to be really quick, right? I've got the Gigantamax Orbeetle. Orbeetle's a Pokemon that doesn't really have a ton going for it. So if you're going to Gigantamax this thing, you got to get something out of that, right? You got to be able to, in my opinion, if you're going to Gigantamax Orbeetle, this thing better hit hard. So first thing I'm thinking is I got to throw a weakness policy on this thing, so I can take advantage of G-Max Gravitas. I'm going to run Frisk because I think it's very valuable. So then I say to myself, all right, what do I want to do with Orbeetle, right? I know I'm going to run a Psychic move, so let me look at its Psychic coverage, right? We're going to look at its Psychic coverage. It gets a couple different things. Psychic, I think, would be the standard one, but I kind of like Stored Power. Stored Power seems like an interesting option because I'm going to be +4 with weakness policy. Might be worth considering Stored Power. Maybe we just run Psychic instead. I don't know. You know, that's things we could test out, kind of see what we end up with after a little while of testing. I think we're going to run Energy Ball because I have an idea for this team on how I want to approach this. We're going to try to utilize our G-Max Gravitas, which is going to set the gravity, reduce the evasiveness of my opponents, right? So we'll run Gravity. It's going to allow us to hit all those bulky waters that we're seeing everywhere. And actually, by having Weakness Policy, it gives us a situation to activate that against a lot of common threats like, you know, Incineroars and things like that. So that could actually be really useful for us. And then from there, I got to figure out, all right, what am I running next? Am I going to run Shadow Ball to deal with, you know, other Psychic types? It's probably my best bet. I think I'm going to run Shadow Ball. And then I got to figure out what's my last move going to be. We have a couple options here. We can run Hypnosis, which is really cool because then once the gravity ends, we can start hypnosising things. That seems fun. We could also run Trick Room. So we got some options. We got to figure that out. I don't know. That's where testing is going to come in. We got to figure out what we want to do there. So I'm going to run Hypnosis. I'm going to say Hypnosis for now. Maybe one Trick Room later. I'm going to run Max HP. I'm going to run Max Special Attack. I'll throw a little bit of speed on there. And that's what we're going to run. I'm going to test it. I don't know. I got to see. Because in my opinion, if I'm going to run G-Max Orbital, I got to hit hard with this thing. And I need the Weakness Policy to do just that. So we're gonna see how that goes first and foremost and see where we go from there. Now I say to myself, okay, I'm running G-Max Gravitas. What am I gonna do with G-Max Gravitas that is gonna allow me to beat down my opponent? Like, what on my team, what can beat my opponent with G-Max Gravitas, and what allows me to do that and make it worth my time? And I think about Pokemon with Hustle. So the first thing that comes to mind to me is Dracozolt. Dracozolt is a Pokemon that has the Hustle ability. It hits incredibly hard, and when you pair it with a Life Orb, or maybe even Room Service in this case, this thing can deal a lot of damage because of its Bolt Beak, right? This kind of thing is pretty neat because it deals with Gigantamax Lapras. It's one of the only things that can one-shot Gigantamax Lapras, which is very cool, and they don't run speed, so you can actually put yourself in a good situation to deal with your opponent in that situation. So, you know, we got the Life Orb on there. I'm going to just throw some standard moves on there. Bolt Beak, Dragon Claw, Ice Horsepower, Protect. I'm just going to run Max Attack right now and Max HP. I don't really care about its speed. I'll worry about that later because, again, I'm not sure where I want to go with this team right now. I'm just kind of piecing things together and trying to take advantage of gravity right now. So I've got this thing. Hustle is nullified. If I have gravity up, it's going to hit insanely hard with Bolt Beak. I don't have to Dynamax this thing if I don't want to because I've got Orbeetle, who's going to be one of my primary Dynamax options. And now I want to say, okay, there's two things I want to do here. One, I want to find a Pokemon that can use Hypnosis because to me, Hypnosis is one of the strongest moves in the game, or Sing, right? Two of these moves that we can maybe utilize and under gravity, right? Because we're trying to focus on gravity. So what learns Hypnosis here, right? We've got Ninetales. It's actually kind of cool, right? Aurora Veil could be nice. Maybe I consider running Ninetales later. Actually, maybe that's a great idea. Maybe we pair Ninetales and Aurora Veil with our Orbeetle. Why don't we do that? Let's try that out. That seems actually really cool. I'm going to run the Focus Sash on it. I'm going to give it Snow Warning. I had no plans of doing this, but it seems kind of fun. Hypnosis, Blizzard. We're going to throw Freeze Dry on there because I think it's really good to have. And then we're going to throw Protect, I think, is pretty straightforward. I would probably say that I would like to get Aurora Veil on here. I think we need Aurora Veil, so you know what? We're just going to run Aurora Veil. And I think we sacrifice Freeze Dry for Protect in this case. And Blizzard Spam is a thing, but if you're putting everything to sleep and you have something really offensive next to it, I don't think that is that big of a deal. This may end up being bad, but this is what we test for, right? This is the testing process here, my friend. So I've got this Ninetales now. It's going to set Aurora Veil up. It's going to be able to fire off Hypnosis. That seems really cool, especially if gravity's up. And it reduces the super effective damage that my Orbeetle is going to take, which I think is really valuable. So I've got that. I've got that going for me. That's really good. Maybe I figure out another Hypnosis user. Maybe I don't. I don't know. Now, the next thing I want to do is I feel like my team is, like, pretty slow, right? We have a couple things we could do. I could throw Icy Wind over Blizzard, things like that, but I think maybe I want to utilize Trick Room on this team. I think having a slow mode is really, really good, and one of the things that I really want to do is I want to be able to activate my Weakness Policy without my opponent attacking me. And you might be like, well, why, though? But I think if you build a team with Weakness Policy, you should always have a way to activate your own Weakness Policy. So I'm going to look up Pokemon that learn Shadow Sneak, because I just know that Shadow Sneak is one of the moves that can do that. So Sableye can do that. I can Shadow Sneak myself with Sableye, which could be really cool because Sableye with Quash next to Dracozolt is really, really dope. That's a great idea. Dusclops also getting Shadow Sneak. I could pair Shadow Sneak Dusclops with my Orbeetle to hit my own Orbeetle, fire off a Gravitas, and then maybe Dusclops can do something else. I don't know. What else we got here? Anything else? We've got Mimikyu, which can Shadow Sneak. Might not be a bad idea to run Mimikyu. Actually, I kind of like Mimikyu because you can use it offensively as well. It's going to be a little bit stronger of a Shadow Sneak, but it could work. I think I'm going to try out Sableye, and maybe I revisit this, and maybe I go to Dusclops later, but we're going to try out Sableye right now. And again, you could be peeking back over here and saying, okay, Sableye. What does most people run on Sableye? Okay, Roselli Berry. A lot of people run Roselli Berry. Prankster always. A lot of specially defensive Sableyes, it seems, with actually speed for Grimmsnarl, which I find funny. A lot of them are running Sunny Day right now to counter the different Sun teams, so that's something to be very mindful of. Ally Switch, Shadow Sneak, Foul Play, pretty standard stuff. You see some of the standard kind of pairs for it, Mimikyu and things like that. We're going to try something different now. We're going to run Prankster, of course, and I definitely want Quash. That move is way too good to not have. We know we need Shadow Sneak on this thing. And then what do I want to do from there? What do I want to do from there? Because I got to figure out, how am I approaching this Sableye? Do I want Fake Out? Do I want Foul Play? You know, and those are the things that you're going to find through testing, right? I think Fake Out's a really cool option, especially with Dracozolt. And then I think maybe we want to run, I don't know, let's run Taunt. I think Taunt could be really good to deal with all those Venusaurs that are flying around, because those things can be quite annoying if you're dealing with a lot of Venusaurs. Now remember, you can't Prankster a Dark type. Just keep that in mind for anyone out there. So I've got this really interesting 4 pieces here, and I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it's an idea, right? And this is where we're going to start. If I want to build around Orbeetle, I've got this cool weakness policy Orbeetle. I'm trying to figure out what I can utilize to put these pieces together to make this work, right? And I love when I have a team that can function in multi-modes. I love if I can maybe make Ninetales work with something else. Like, what can I benefit with Ninetales? Is there a Pokemon that maybe can run Blizzard that can take advantage of Ninetales Snow? Maybe Beartic is a really good fit here. Maybe I can fit a Beartic on there. Let's take a peek at what Ninetales is being run with right now. Obviously, the fast Aurora Veiler. So it seems like Incineroar, Rotom, Togekiss, Excadrill, Dracozolt, actually, which is kind of funny. A lot of Goodras, some Mudsdales, which can be really difficult to take down. Conkeldurr, Venusaur, things like that. A lot of people seem to be running Light Clay, which I guess could work too, right? Like, you could totally say, you know what? I'm going to just run max HP, max speed, run Light Clay to get 8 turns out of it instead. That might not be a bad idea. I don't know. But right now, I see 2 different things. I see Orbeetle plus Sableye. I see Dracozolt plus Sableye. I could see some potential there. Some pretty interesting pieces. But now I'm like, all right, what am I struggling against? Like, if I face Charizard, Venusaur, what happens? Do I just get blown back? Let's go back to that Goodra idea. Let's revisit Goodra, because I really like Goodra right now. I think Goodra's a really strong pick, especially right now. So let's throw Blizzard on it. That's a way to pair with Ninetales, right? We can throw Blizzard on it. I want to have Fire Blast, because we need to hit those grass types. We want to hit them as hard as possible. We struggle against ground types a little bit. Gastrodons might be a little bit annoying. Let's run Power Whip and be kind of cheeky there, and then you want Sludge Bomb because you want to hit as hard as you can. I'm going to throw a little bit of speed on there. We'll optimize later. We'll throw a little bit of special attack. This thing's going to be bulky no matter what, so we'll figure that out. And actually, you know, maybe I don't want to lower my attack stat. I'm going to run some calcs later to see where Power Whip ends up netting out even if I lower my attack stat. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. I don't know. You know, those are the things we want to figure out. So I've got this Sableye, I've got this Goodra, I've got my Ninetales, my Dracozolt. I personally would love to have a Steel type on this team somehow. And my team is like kind of awkwardly slow. So I'm really utilizing Sableye right now to be my speed control. Maybe I throw Icy Wind on Ninetales. Maybe that's the best option here. Maybe not. But I think I need to figure out some way to get some speed on this team, because right now it's looking a little bit slow. It's looking a lot a bit slow, actually. It's looking a lot a bit slow. So why don't we take a look at Beartic right now? You know, maybe Beartic ends up being great. Maybe it ends up being terrible. Let's throw a Choice Band on it and see what happens, right? I'm not saying it's gonna be great. I'm just telling you it's an option. So let's throw Icicle Spear on there, which is really good because it actually is a pretty high max move. We're gonna throw Superpower because I don't think. Well, we want Rock Slide for sure. I don't think it gets close combat, so we'll run Superpower. And then since we're banded, we might as well throw another coverage move on there. We can run like Steel coverage, but I think probably ground coverage if it gets it. If it gets Earthquake, it might not be a bad play. It does not. What about Stomping Tantrum? No. High Horsepower? No. So it doesn't get ground coverage, but maybe it gets something else. It gets water coverage. We can run Liquidation. Not sure how I feel about that though. And you can run dark coverage with Throat Chop. It's something we would get in testing. It does get Bulldoze if you really want a physical. Let's try Bulldoze. Maybe that'll work. We'll run max attack, and we'll just run max speed until we kind of figure out where we want to be. I mean, max speed actually gives us a chance to, I think that puts us right around where Dragapult sits. I'm not positive, okay? So I've got this team here. Now, again, I'm not trying to say this team is going to be anything special by any stretch of the imagination. I just want to give you guys a general idea of kind of my thought process about how I go through it, right? So now I'm looking at this team, and now you test. And this is the part where you figure it all out, right? We're going to hop onto a game right now. We're going to test the team, and we're going to start to figure out what our strengths and weaknesses are through testing. And this is where you're going to learn. So I see my opponent here. They've got Trick Room. They've got a Duraludon, which can redirect. They've got this Charizard and Whimsicott. I'm assuming my opponent is going to lead Charizard, Whimsicott, set up Sunny Day, and try to blow me back. I think I need Goodra in this match to really stand a chance, so I'm going to keep that in mind. and I don't even want to rely on Ninetales, because if I try to set up an Aurora Veil, I'm going to be in trouble. So I've got a couple different ways I can approach this. I personally think that Sableye plus Dracozolt looks really good as a lead, because I think it can actually handle a lot of things that my opponent want to do, and if I have to switch out, I can kind of handle that later. So I'm kind of feeling Dracozolt plus Sableye and just YOLOing and hoping that I don't mess up the Bolt Beak. Let's try that. We're going to give that a shot. I've got the Orbeetle here, which could be utilized in the kind of later game, setting up that G-Max Gravitas, so we might want to consider that, and that's actually a pretty good matchup against the couple things there. And then maybe we'll throw Ninetales on there to change the weather back, which could be good, but I think I'm going to want Goodra on this one. I think Goodra's too good to pass up. So let's see what happens here. So we've got Jellicent Togekiss. Definitely not what I expected, but that's totally fine. I'm going to go for the Bolt Beak into the Togekiss, and I think I just quashed the Togekiss here, and we are going to see what happens. Now, obviously, there's a chance that my opponent goes for Trick Room with their Jellicent. It's obviously a possibility that my opponent is going to go for a Water Spout. They may go for Follow Me. I would think that my opponent's Togekiss is really going to want to try to go for Max Starfall here. I'm going to quash it. We're not going to miss our Bolt Beak. I'm going to straight up knock out the Togekiss right there, and my opponent's going to quit their game. So that was a pretty quick one. Sableye is going to tank that hit because he's specially defensive, and that's it. So I built this team in a way. Now this is obviously I'm playing on my not aDrive account, right? That's one game. That doesn't mean anything. But what you can do is you continuously play through games, you practice, and you try to figure out what pieces work together and what pieces don't work together. In this case, my focal point was, okay, Sableye plus Dracozolt or Sableye plus Orbeetle. Sableye provides a lot of support, can activate my own Orbeetle's weakness policy, allows it to fire off some really big hits, set up the gravity, and allow either Ninetales or Dracozolt to come in and maybe start firing off some really powerful hits. I do think maybe a Trick Room mode on this team makes a little bit more sense than the Hypnosis, and I would probably want to restructure this to be a little bit closer to a Trick Room team. But I think we have an idea here, right? This is an idea, and when I competed most recently in Collinsville, I spent about 350 to 400 games of practicing to get to my team, and I still don't even think the team was done. You don't have to quite go that crazy, but that's just me. So hopefully you learned something from this video. I know it was a little bit ranty and it was a little bit all over the place, but I think if you can set yourself an objective of picking a particular Pokemon and really setting the goal to build around it, you can do some really cool things. And just through testing, man, it all comes down to testing. You gotta practice, practice, practice. Don't get discouraged. You're gonna lose games, even on my highest ranked account or whatever, where I'm sitting at, like, you know, number 100 on Showdown. You know, I have like a 65 win percent, 70 win percentage, right? Like, so that means I'm still losing 3 games out of every 10, right? Like, or I'm winning 6, losing 4, or I'm winning 7, losing 3, right? Like, it's not that far off, right? And as you go through the testing phases, those are the things that you're gonna learn. So hopefully this video was informative. If you feel like I missed anything massive, let me know. And if you want me to like continue this and maybe try a different idea to continue to explain this, I'm happy to make this a series. I know this wasn't like super concise and organized, but this is kind of how I just go about things. I think it's really just comes down to testing. But let me know. Hopefully this was good for you guys. Let me know. Hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Butterfree, go!